the Arty 84 show. This is episode 253. It is November 4th, 2024, the night before the election. And a big election as it is. As many years we've done the show the night before or the night of the election, and we talk about what is at stake for pretty much the country, the state, your city, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not going to talk too much about the presidential election because basically I'm up in Boston. We know how Massachusetts is going to go. There's no surprise here. How big is the presidential election? At the end of the day, I think people get their panties in a wad for no reason. We could all see that in the large general picture, whoever is elected president is not going to affect your life. In a great, how do I say it in the best way? Whoever's elected president isn't going to affect your life day to day dramatically for the most part. For most people, some people it will. For most of us, it won't. You could put Mickey Mouse in the White House. We all know that the president of the United States is not making the decisions, and it's plain and simple. Basically, it is. We may think they are, but I mean, we haven't seen President Biden in 3 months doing anything other than going on campaign tours for Harris. So there you go. It just proves right there that there's other people running this country. It's not the president of the United States. So all these people getting mad and getting upset with each other over who they're voting for is absolutely ridiculous. 100% ridiculous. That it makes no sense. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your breath because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because it doesn't really matter. Simple as that. Okay. You may think it matters on this thing. Your taxes might go up this way. This might happen this way. When it comes to the big picture, they make decisions that none of us have control of. They purposely want us to be put against each other so we could argue and be split. So we go together because a unified country is what they fear. They fear everyone getting together and agreeing on the same thing because then they lose their power. We all forget that they are employees of us. They don't tell us what to do. We hire them. We vote them in. We have the ability every 4 years or 6 years for Senate or every 2 years for your representative to fire them, essentially. If you do not think they're doing a good job, you can get rid of them. And all they do, for the most part, in the entire time they're in office, unless they have a term limit, which most of these people don't in Washington, except for the president, they basically just campaign for half of their term, which is ridiculous. Now, one of the most ridiculous things is the amount of money they spend on both parties. Have you seen the amount of money they spend? Hundreds of millions of dollars for campaign ads. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, think of that number, right? Think about the amount of debt this country's in. Think about what that money could be going towards rather than a TV commercial, rather than paying celebrities to do shows for their fundraisers, for their transportation, their security. Hundreds of millions of dollars. I would love to see the final number at the end of the day. These billionaires are just donating this money to people. It's not it's not you and I. It's not the $7 donation that does anything for any of us. It doesn't do crap. Diddly squat. It's these billionaires who try to donate to political campaigns so they can influence the people who are in power so they could benefit to make more money. It doesn't matter what political side you are, and I'm sick of tired of this. They split us apart, Republican, Democrat. But at the end of the day, I would say 95% of us all agree pretty much on the same thing. But we never have that opportunity to even discuss that because they're too busy pulling us apart in two different directions to vote for A or B. And it doesn't even matter. And if people finally realize this stuff, then this country will be run a completely different way. But until then, we just have to sit there and listen to someone argue about something. And then at the end of the day, if you just took a step back and said, all right, what do you like? What do you don't like? And I guarantee you, majority of the stuff you guys will agree on. Trust me. Everyone wants low taxes. Everyone wants veterans and homeless taken care of, right? Everyone wants low gas prices. Everyone wants low grocery costs. Everyone wants all this stuff. Everyone wants a safe country that they're protecting. And everyone agrees on this stuff. Everyone, okay? It doesn't matter who you are or what political party you are. Majority of people, and if you don't, you're a lunatic. I don't even know who the hell you are if you don't agree on any of those things, right? So we got to stop fighting with each other about who we're voting for or what political side we're on, because at the end of the day, it's all the same crap, okay? So we're going to put the political side of the presidential, I guess the presidential side of the political conversation side. And we're going to talk about something that's really important here in the state of Massachusetts, something that's going to affect um, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people if this doesn't go in. It's question 5. And question 5 is a question that has been, first of all, not proposed by any server or bartender or anyone who works in the restaurant business. I'll let you guys know this. Do the research. This question is not proposed or was not brought up by any server or bartender. Okay. This is an outside company coming in. I don't know why. I don't know what the purpose is. The only thing I can think of, it's 100% money grab because there's a lot of untaxable dollars being going back and forth to servers and bartenders with patrons that don't get recorded and don't get taxed on. That is the only reason. I do not see. I've worked in the service industry for 20 plus years. I've known people who've worked in it for longer than I have. People who've done their entire careers in this industry. And I can tell you one thing, there's not one person I have talked to that wants to vote yes on this. So to break down the question for you, the question is, if you vote no, things stay the same. You go to a restaurant, you tip your server. If the service is really good, you tip them really good. If it sucks, you don't got to tip them. It's the end of the day. But all the servers and bartenders know that their service level is dependent on tip. And yes, sometimes you get screwed out of a tip. It happens. But I'm telling you, in 20 years, it's a break even because those people that don't tip you, the next table you get, they might over tip you. And it's always a wash and you always do good. Service, ask any server or bartender you ever met. They will agree 100% of this. And if they, I would love to someone who doesn't because I want to see how good they work because they're probably lazy. Because I worked with a lot of people in my time. Currently work with some people who just don't want to work. Just want to sit there. Don't want to do the bare minimum. Do want to, go out of their way to help a table. Now you remember, it's a service industry. So they come into your restaurant and you're there to serve them. That's the job, right? So they want a water. They want a drink. What can I do for you? It is your job to make them feel comfortable. Essentially, when they come into your restaurant or bar, they're coming into your home and you're making them feel welcome. So you're taking care of them. You're having conversation with them. It's an experience, right? Otherwise, you just go home and cook a dinner yourself, right? Heat up in the microwave, cook your own dinner. You go to a restaurant for the experience, right? You want to serve it. You want to be able to have someone grab something for you. You want someone to be able to cook the food for you. All right. So if that said, question 2 wants to pretty much give everyone a pay raise on paper in Massachusetts. Now, people are like, oh, they're going to get paid minimum wage. No, you got to look at the structure. It's a few bucks now, and it works up to a minimum wage over the course of the 5 years, right? Trust me, servers don't want this. Well, you must say, well, what happens if you don't make any tips? You may only making, $5 an hour. No, we're not. There's already been a law put in place in Massachusetts many years ago, about 10 plus years ago. And I know this for a fact because the company I worked for was audited and they had to make sure everyone was getting paid the minimum wage. And they still do. They currently still do. Okay. So just remember this. You have to remember this. Servers are being taken care of. If no one comes into a restaurant and no one comes into the bar, that entire shift, which is very odd because I don't see how a restaurant or a business of that matter, or anyone that serves food or drinks could stay in business, but just put it there. No one comes in. 0 people come in. That server and that bartender is still obligated to make minimum wage. State of Massachusetts mandates it that the restaurant has to pay the difference. So say you only made your tips and all that and you average it out to be $10 an hour, right? Well, you're still 5 shy. The restaurant has to make up the difference. It's already in place. Trust me, you're not doing anyone any favor by voting yes on this question. I am telling you from personal experience and everyone I know who's worked in this industry, you are not doing us a favor. You may think you're being some golden knight saying, we're going to give them fair pay. It's not working that way because this is what happens in a lot of country. I work at a restaurant that gets a lot of people from different countries, different states. And there, when you get people from other countries, especially Europe, they don't tip. I've been to Europe, and I'm telling you, when you tip over in Europe, you think they're giving you the greatest thing since sliced bread because they're not used to being tipped. But Americans do tip over there because that's just the style is, and that's how most people are. You're tipping for excellence, right? I don't care how much you're making, right? So everything's good, you're doing great, you're getting tipped. That's plain and simple. That's how most people feel when they go out to restaurants. And I think it's terrible to think of it this way, that you're going to be taking money from people. Because now if you know that the person is only making, is making minimum wage, right? For example, which they're not going to do for 5 years, but people get confused and they don't read these questions and they're going to think all of a sudden we're making $15 an hour. It's not going to happen. You got to read the paperwork that Massachusetts sent out this pamphlet that told you and discussed the questions. If you looked into it, you'd see. Now, it's not so much the minimum wage thing that's pissing people off. Well, it's going to piss us off because what happens is people aren't going to tip now because they're going to figure making minimum wage. Some will. Don't get me wrong. There will be people that tip. Okay, I'm not going to say that people are just going to decide not to. People will still do it. But at the same time, the main thing that we don't like is the tip pulling aspect of this question that does not belong in this question at all. It's absolutely absurd that this is in the question. Now, tip pulling is, say I am by the bar by myself. I should be obligated to all the money I make in that bar because I'm the bartender. I was helping those servers, right? Now we have tip outs, right? So the servers will tip out the bar. They'll tip out their food runners. They'll tip out people that help their job easier, right? Bigger restaurants have more people to tip out at the end of the night. It's how the restaurant industry works. And if you never worked in the restaurant industry, I'm telling you how it works, okay? And I honest to God, I think everyone should have to work in the restaurant industry, at least for a little bit, to understand how society works and how to deal and handle with people. You know, I think it's a great tool to teach you in life. And I strongly would tell everyone who's looking for a job when they're younger to at least work on it for a little while. It may not be the greatest job in the world. You may not love it, but it will teach you a lot. It will teach you a lot about people, how to handle people, how to talk to people, and just in society in general, right? So the tipping aspect, I'm going on a tangent here. Basically, the tipping aspect is I make $300 in tips that night. I have to take all that money and give it to the manager. And he has to distribute it to everyone in the restaurant. It's not just my money, but everyone else's money. So if I'm having a great night and I'm really hustling, busting my ass, and, Jack over there in the corner restaurant doesn't want to take any tables, just wants to sit there, is not doing his job, not helping anyone, not running any food, not running any drinks. He's obligated to part of my money. And that's ridiculous. That makes absolutely no sense at all. Tip pooling is the worst thing to happen to a restaurant. It doesn't encourage employees to help each other. What it does is encourages lazy people. And I've seen restaurants that have tip pooling, and you can tell the people are hustling and the people are not. Because at the end of the night, why would you bust your ass if you know you're still going to make a portion of that money anyways because the other person is busting their ass? It doesn't encourage people to help. It doesn't. I'm telling you right now, it does not work. It is the stupidest thing. So I said to myself, well, why would it matter? Why is the state of Massachusetts so in depth? Well, no, it's an outside company, right? So you call the State House. They'll give you the runaround about how it comes up. It's an outside company that comes in and has suggested it to the state of Massachusetts to put into it. And the only reason anyone out there can see why this would even be a question posed is that we all know when you go to a restaurant, a lot of us will tip cash, right? Well, there's no guarantee that cash is being put into the computer and being taxed. And that's the only way I see it. The Massachusetts is seeing hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars go through their system without people being taxed on it. That is the only reason. So, in the way the socialist system of Massachusetts works, the Socialist Republic of Massachusetts, as we like to call it here, where everyone has to be treated equal. It's not so much everyone's treated. People should be treated equal. It's everyone should get the same amount of money. Everyone should do the same, no matter how hard you work. All that encourages people not wanting to work hard. It's basically it. So you're gonna have shitty service because they're just gonna be like, well, I'm making minimum wage anyways. Doesn't matter. It's gonna be the equivalent if you go to a Dunkin' Donuts or something like that, and the people are just dragging their ass on their phone the entire time and not helping you. And yes, you do have people that have like that at restaurants, but they don't last very long because when you act like that at a restaurant, you're being paid by tips. If you're terrible at it, you're not going to get tipped well, so you're not going to keep that job. If you're really good at it, then you stay at that job for a while because you make money, and then you grow regulars. And you have people that come in every week to see you, to talk to you, people that ask for you specifically. It happens. It's how the restaurant industry works. So I'm telling you out there, if you've never worked in the industry, no service wants it. They're trying to paint this picture like the corporate restaurants are telling their employees to vote no. That is not the case at all. Yes, the restaurants want us to be voted no because there's also a whole nother aspect I'm going to get into with the restaurants if this question does pass. And it's going to affect you as the consumer. Plain and simple. There's no other way around it. Okay? But yes, the restaurants do not want you to vote yes. They want you to vote no. The employees want you to vote no. Everyone who works in the business wants you to vote no. Well, then you say, well, what happens to the back of the house? They should get some of your tips. The back of the house gets paid a regular pay wage, much more than minimum wage most of the time, okay? And they always have, hey, listen, if you're a cook and you're not happy with what you're making as a cook, you have the opportunity, being in that restaurant, to say, hey, you know what, I want to be a server. I've seen it go both ways. I've seen people who served who decide, you know what, I just want a base wage every week. I'm going to go to cook or dishwash or prep. And I've seen that. And I've also seen people who behind the line decide, you know what, I need to make a little bit of money. Maybe there's a few days a week I'm going to go out and in the front of the house. It works both ways. Trust me. In 20 years of working in the industry, I've seen it both ways. Okay. And they get paid a lot more than that. A lot of restaurants offer incentives. If your food costs are good, you know, if your labor's down, the restaurant gets bonuses. Those bonuses get distributed to the back of the house. The front of the houses, we don't get bonuses. We don't get any extra money. It is what it is. Our tips are our tips, and that is. We have contests sometimes that the restaurants will start and go, oh, you can make an extra $100 this week if you get X amount of reviews, or you do this, or you do that to kind of help morale, try to help your ratings and stuff on Yelp and all that stuff. We have that. But the back of the house is a whole different story. It might as well be two different restaurants because they cook the food. They know what's going on back there and they get taken care of. And if you don't get taken care of, then go to another restaurant. It's like any other job. Because I know plenty of cooks that maxed out at places I worked at. And so they went on to another restaurant, a bigger restaurant where they make more money. And it's a whole different type of work. And yes, they have the opportunity to do both if they really wanted to. Sometimes they choose not to. They get better hours in the back of the house because they don't have to stay there late. Servers and bartenders are there way past closing time, cleaning and doing all this stuff. It's just a ridiculous thing. I don't understand, and I can't comprehend why people who do not work in the industry are having the right to vote for this if they have no education on this. And they're not doing their homework, and that's the most frustrating thing. You should ask a bartender or server what they think. You shouldn't just go, but I'm going to try to help them out by giving them minimum. We don't want it. I can't tell the state of Massachusetts more. We don't want your help. We want less government. Everyone wants less government. I don't understand why they have to go out of their way to try to help us. They're not trying to help us. Trust me. When the government tries to help you, they're not helping you. There's nothing they can do to help you. They're trying to get into your business. They're trying to screw things up. And and at the end of the day, it's all about money. It has to be all about. Why other reason would they do this? Okay. Makes no sense. So please vote no on question 5 if you're in Massachusetts. Save us, because what's going to happen is people are going to be like, oh, well, now they're getting paid minimum wage. I'm going to tell you what happened. They're going to say, well, we're getting paid minimum wage, so I'm not going to tip them anymore. Okay. Now, like I said, it's over the course of 5 years before you even get close to minimum wage. So we're going to be making under minimum wage. So now what's going to happen is if we get in that under minimum wage and no one's tipping us, then the restaurant is now obligated to pay us up to that minimum wage. So now they're doing something they didn't have to do before because we were making tips. Okay. All right. So you're saying, well, the restaurant should pay you. Yes, they should. Okay. They take care of us. But now you're going to remember when they have to pay more money for labor. Now, anyone who works in the restaurant industry knows this. This is pretty much a fundamental way of running a restaurant. Okay. Everyone who works, either management, server, bartender, from the dishwasher all the way to your general manager. For a restaurant to be successful, their labor cost should be under 20%. Okay. Now, what's labor cost, you might add, if you never worked in someone that has labor costs? Well, labor cost is you take your total number of how much you made for that day, and 20% of that number should be your labor, 20% or less. Okay. That's how a business stays profitable. Because when you look at that number, you have your profit margin of what you made, you have your labor cost, you have your food cost, you have your alcohol cost. Right. And you have all these other costs like utilities, rent. Depending on where your restaurant is or what kind of restaurant you operate, there's a lot of costs that could add on to this, right? Cutting away from your profit margin. Okay. So when you look at that number and you're saying, okay, 20% labor. Now that's 20% labor running with your management. That's running with your hourly employees in the back of the house and your hosts who get paid hourly. And it's also taking into consideration your service and bartenders who are getting paid. I think I haven't looked at my stub in years. I think right now in Massachusetts we're making like $5.25 plus tips. Okay, something of that nature. Could be a little bit more than that. So that number of how many hours at work times that onto the labor cost. Okay, so we get that number. Fine, you get that number. Great. All that has to be under 20% for your restaurant to be operating in a way that it can be survive basically, right? Now we all know the cost of food's gone up, right? Everything's more expensive. So right now, restaurants are trying to dance that line where, all right, we don't want to kill the customer, okay? If the hamburger cost has gone up 20, 30%, we have to somehow pass that on to someone else. So what they'll do is they'll disperse it over the menu. They're like, all right, we'll charge a little bit more for this, a little more for this, We'll raise the drinks a quarter. We'll try and make some more money on the alcohol because, frankly, the restaurant makes the majority of their money on alcohol sales. Okay, so the more they sell alcohol, they can jack up the price, maybe 25 cents on a bottle of beer. Now, if you've ever been to a restaurant in Massachusetts, you already know right now, even outside of Boston, just in the suburbs, the cost of for drinks, food, it's already outrageous. The prices have gone up. Places I haven't seen increases in prices like this in a long time, but it's because of inflation. This is what's going to happen. And I've seen firsthand people that used to come in 3 times a week now only come in once a week because the prices have gone up. And it's everywhere. It's not just where I work or where you work. It's everywhere. And you can know this, but you've seen this, right? So now you look at the restaurant's point of view and they'd be like, all right, now I have to pay all these people way more money. So that means I have to make up the difference to be profitable. I have to keep that number under 20%. And the restaurants could vary. It could be different depending on the restaurants, but a good ballpark is 20%. From where I worked, 20% was the number. Okay. So how do you get that number? You have to jack the prices up even more. So your drinks go up even more. Your food goes even more. Or you get this thing where they start doing now is they start putting service fees on your bill. And there's a lot of places in Boston they'll do that. They'll have a fee for the back of the house, right? Or a fee, or if you go to, like, I think it was Nevada I was in, or some other state that does this thing. They have a fee thing now they put on there. So now you get your food, your alcohol, and now you get these fees on top of the tax. So now you're just paying the fees. So now you're paying. It's not the restaurant paying the minimum wage. You're paying the minimum wage out of your pocket, which is, and then when you look at it, you're like, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg to go out. It already is an arm and a leg to go out. It already is pretty crazy to go out to eat these days in Massachusetts. I'm telling you right now, it is unaffordable for most people. So it's going to end up hitting you. I'm telling you right now. The restaurant's not going to sit there. They can't sit there because they're basically breaking even anyways at the end of the day. I mean, there's very few restaurants that you can walk away at the end of the year and say, wow, I made a lot of money this year. You know, I could go retire. Restaurant business is a very, very tightly run business. One mistake could be disastrous for the restaurant. Your food cost is terrible, disastrous. You know, your drinks are going over the bar, not being accounted for. Your liquor costs go sky up. It'd be disastrous. I'm telling you, it is. There's such a fine line for profit margin in a restaurant. Anyone who works in a restaurant knows this. It is one of the toughest businesses to run. Okay, and if you're going in the business is booming and you're doing great, you're making great money. But you got to remember, there's a lot of times that business isn't. You know, Mondays, Tuesdays. A lot of places close on Mondays and Tuesdays. It's a very slow night. Or they offer specials incentives for like people that work in the hospitality industry. So they can go out on a Monday night, maybe get a little bit of discount, get the employee discount, get 50% off, something of that nature. A lot of restaurants do that. So the big picture is you're not helping anyone. You're not helping yourself because costs are going up. You're not helping the servers or the bartenders because now they have to share their money. All this is going to cause is a mutiny in a restaurant. You understand this, right? And it's going to cause less employees. So if you can't jack up the price, you're going to have to put less employees on. So if your restaurant's already running thin on employees, like say you have 3 servers on, and that's tough, you really could use a 4th. Well, now you might only have 2 servers on. So your service is going to suffer. Plain and simple. You're not going to have great service. I'm telling you. You got to cut the cost somewhere. So you're going to cut an employee. So then they're going to lose money, right? So now they're looking for, it's in Massachusetts right now. I'll tell you right now, it is already hard enough to find servers and bartenders, especially ones with experience and skill. It's been tough since the pandemic when all these servers and bartenders were getting, money from the government for not working and everything like that. Which, if that was your only job, yes, I could see that. You need that to survive. That's fine. Restaurants are closed. There's nothing you're going to do about it. But, a lot of people didn't want to come back to that. A lot of people found jobs that they could do that didn't require tips and stuff like this. Also, a lot of people use this job as second income. I use this job as second income. So why would I want to go and make less money on my second income? Why would anyone want to do it? Why would anyone want to go to work and make less money? I'm telling you. And people will say, well, in other states, they've done this and everything. I don't care what other states does. Okay. Ask the people who are affected by it. Now, I could see if there was a big petition put up, right? And everyone and all the servers and bartenders in Massachusetts were like, we need this. We need this now. I could see that. And I'd be like, you know what? All right, let's hear that. But if you ask every server and bartender, I haven't come across one that says we want this. I haven't. No one wants to share their tips. No one wants to share their tips. Plain and simple. Why would you want to share money with someone who had nothing to do with you making that money? It's socialism. That's all it is. It sounds like the most socialist thing I've ever heard in my life. It makes zero sense and gives you no incentive to bust your ass either, to be honest with you. It's just going to cause lazy service and bartenders. It's going to cause morale at restaurants to be at a all-time low. Okay. And what's going to do is going to cause really good bartenders in service who know they can make that money to go work in other states. New England's very, very small. There's a lot of times you can go to New Hampshire quicker than you can go to some parts of Massachusetts and get a job. And everyone is going to be going over north of the border. And everyone's going to be saying, why are all these restaurants in Massachusetts failing? Not to mention the amount of money restaurants provide to the cities and towns they live in. In fact, the states. There's a lot of tax there. There's alcohol tax, there's food preparation tax, right? That money goes to the cities and towns, right? So if that company's making less money and it goes to all the restaurants at that point, the cities and towns are making less money. So, but don't wait. The cities and towns and the government still need to make money. So what are they going to do? They're going to come after you and jack up your taxes. It goes round and round. You could break this down to any level you want and look at the big picture. It's not helping anyone. It's literally helping zero people. Zero. Okay. In addition, when you get a job at a restaurant, you know the deal. Okay. Have you ever seen the movie Waiting? That's pretty much sums up a restaurant life right there. It really is at the end of the day. It's pretty accurate to how a restaurant life is, right? So you go into a restaurant, you know you're getting paid an X amount of money. You know you're going to bust your ass for some tips. And it's a great experience because you get to, make long-term friends. I've made many, many long-term friends working in the industry. And some of them are the closest friends in my life. Just because there's a bond you have there working in something like that, right? You share stories, you share experiences. You don't have in an office job, essentially, right? My two jobs are worlds of difference. I'll tell you that much. It's like going from here to here. They couldn't be more different, to be honest with you. And some people like that change, right? Now, why? I just don't understand why. If someone can tell me why you would want to vote yes on this, I've already explained the reasons why you shouldn't vote yes on this. Okay, but I want to know, maybe you can change my mind on this, but I don't see it, especially someone who works in there. I can tell you right now, there's no reason to vote yes on this. No one wants it. That's like forcing someone to like, here, please take this. I don't want this. I don't want this. Please go away. Like, here's a free car. No, I don't want the car. And you're forcing the car on the person. Like, I don't want the car. I don't want the expenses. I don't want the outfit. I don't want the car. Stop trying to give us stuff. It's not helping. And leave it to Massachusetts to fuck something up this up too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's going on with this state. I just don't understand with the mass exodus of people here. Like they really want to push more people out of the state. It's what it really seems like to me. And the amount of people left during COVID and all that stuff in Massachusetts, and we should have lost a congressional seat. I don't know how we got away with not losing one, but some shenanigans on the census, but we should have lost at least one congressional seat with the amount of people that left. And we didn't. And I guarantee when the next census comes out, how many years from there, 6 years from now, we probably will lose a congressional seat, or if not more, because I don't see people staying in the state. And something like this happens, especially if you're working in the service industry and this is your only job and you've been making really good money and now you're going to be getting money taken away from you. Why would you stay in the state? Especially if that's something you enjoy doing, something like, a job you like working, Why wouldn't you go somewhere warmer? Why wouldn't you go South Carolina? Why wouldn't you go to like Florida or something like that? Right? Then you get more people leaving the state. And what happens when a lot of people leave the state? Like right now, the state makes less money, right? Less taxes. But the governor still wants to make her salary and go or have a raise every year. And all these stupid things that the government pays for that no one even knows what they're paying for. These stupid systems, these stupid, funds and everything like that, Those still need to be funded. They're not going to say, well, we're just going to take money off this. The governor's not going to be like, well, I'm going to take a salary hit, because we're not making, the taxes have gone down in the state. So it's going to jack it up on whatever cost it is, whether it's your property tax or your, sales tax or your state income tax or any of that stuff. So I'm telling you right now, you will be sorry if this goes in. If you're someone who enjoys going to bars and restaurants, you will be devastated. The experience will not be the same. You're not going to have the service. You're not going to have the value. That's going to be gone. I mean, right now, going to McDonald's is already $30-something an hour because you got to pay these employees $20-something, $15 an hour, whatever the minimum wage in Massachusetts. I don't even know. So that's why when you go and get 2 Happy Meals and a couple of hamburgers for your kids, it's costing you $30. Now, picture what that's going to cost at a restaurant that has even bigger overhead. Right? So stop trying to be Mr. Nice Guy out there. We don't want your help. Trust me. There's no server bots that don't want your help. It's not the corporations making us do it. No restaurant has told their employees to do this, from my knowledge. Everyone I asked said that the restaurants don't want it to go through. None of us have been forced to tell you we don't want this to go through. That'd be extremely illegal. We're doing this on basically our own merits, that this is what we want as employees, right? So please listen to what we have to say. Tomorrow's a big day in the state. We need to get this thrown away and never to be brought up again, because this is absolutely ridiculous. It will be disastrous. I'm telling you. I can just see it right now. Restaurants are already struggling to stay in business. This is just going to be the final nail to the coffin. You're going to have no restaurants. And maybe this is what the state wants. Maybe the state doesn't want people going out, having a good time, drinking. You know, that's what socialism is. They want you to stay home, not travel, not do anything. I don't know. The electric car, that's a great example. Making everyone want to buy electric cars that can only go so many miles without a charge, right? Because they don't want you traveling, right? I don't know. Seems a little fishy to me. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but I know that the bottom line is the only reason they put stuff in this place is it's a money grab. They want more of our money. They want to be able to tax every single red cent that goes into a person's pocket. Whether you agree with that or not, that's up to you. I don't think it's right. And I'll tell you right now, if that no tax on tip thing goes through, yeah, that's what the two candidates want, Harris and Trump, no tax on tips. But you remember, that's federal only. That has nothing to do with your state tax, okay? So yeah, you'd be like, well, it doesn't matter anyways. We're not going to get taxed on tips. You won't get taxed federally on your tips. Massachusetts is still going to take their share. I'm telling you, they have nothing to do with that tax code, okay? So you think you may be safe from getting taxed, and you'd be like, well, he's crazy. They're not going to tax tips anyways. And you're going to remember, the no tax on tips thing, right, only goes into play if whoever's elected has both the House and the Senate too, because it's going to be bound to a law, right? So, I mean, you can't sign an executive decision on something like that, from what my knowledge is. So it's a shot. Like any promise that any presidential candidate makes you might as well, believe that the Earth is flat at that point, because there's nothing really they could do. To be honest with you, there's really nothing they can do. The president's hands are tied unless they have both houses of Congress. Which, who knows if that could happen or not. It never happens. So, if it does happen, it happens for 2 years. And you got to get all that work done in 2 years to get all that stuff pushed into play. And, I'm telling you. So, take what you have to with that. You may think I'm crazy. It doesn't matter. I don't really give a shit. I'm just telling you my perspective as someone who works in the industry. We don't want your help. Trust me. Stay out of our business. Stay out of our pockets. Okay? Stay out of our house. Stay out of our income. Stay out of what we want. We don't want your help. Okay? So as a person who works in the industry, as many people who know in the industry, that work in the industry, I'm telling you right now, you have to vote no on this question, because it'd be disastrous. I'm telling you. Okay? So take what you may. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe, leave your comments below, and we'll see you guys next week on the Arty 84 show. See ya. Bye. The Arty 84 show.